Hi everyone, I wanted to try to explain some things about my last video. I also wanted to do a continuation of my video before that and talk about why I believe we're still here in 2019 when all the evidence seemed to be pointing to the year 2018. But there's also a couple of other things that I wanted to talk about. I was just watching this video over here by It Is Finished channel. I watched it earlier this morning, and he's talking about a vision that he had of the letter Dalet in the Hebrew, which means door. And I paused it over here on this scripture, John 10:9, which makes the number 19. And I remember talking about the word door in my video before the last one, but to be honest, I couldn't even remember what I was saying about the word door. But I remember pointing out that it was also coming up in John 20:19. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and show you that real quick over here in John 20:19, which looks like the year 2019. It says, "Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Jesus and stood in the midst and said unto them, Peace be unto you." So Jesus suddenly appeared in the midst over here in John 20:19. And I remembered saying that I would talk about this scripture in the next video. And to be honest, I couldn't even remember why I said that, and so I had to watch a few minutes of my video to jar my memory. Okay, so I just pulled it up from the video file. Let me move this down a little bit. And so it only took a few seconds or a minute to remember what I was talking about. And I was talking about these three scriptures over here in Acts 27 through 2019, which look like the years 2017 through 2019. And then I was talking about this word window over here. This is from the video file, but I'll go ahead and pull it up. Okay, so I was talking about how this is the next to the last time you see the word midnight in the Bible. The last time is in Acts 27:27. I've talked about how the number 27 represents the year 2017, and over here in Acts 27, which looks like the year 2017, this is the time before the last time you see the word midnight in the Bible. And then when you read on to verse 2019, it talks about a window. I talked about this in my last video, or the video before the last one, so I'm not going to repeat everything that I said in that video. I'll just put a link in the description box. But you see this word window is actually a form of the word door. It's the word thedes, and it's interesting that it's G2376, because this is all about DNA ultimately, is what the entire Bible is about. But you can see that it's the diminutive form of the word door, which is the word theta. And so it's the same word. It means door or vestibule, an opening, entrance, or passage into. And it's talking about the door to the kingdom of heaven, and how Jesus said that he is the door of the sheep, which was also in the video by It Is Finished. It talks about the word door. And then over here it's coming up in Matthew 6:6. I've talked about how that's a number representing DNA as well. But as I was talking about this word door, I pointed out how it comes up in John 10:9, where Jesus said, "I am the door of the sheep." He also said it in John 10:7, which makes the number 17 the number 19. And my whole premise is that there seems to be a convergence of the years 2017 through the years 2019, which I'll try to explain a little more. But then you see it again in John 2019. And so that's how the word door came up in my last video. And I said I didn't have time to get into this scripture, but again, you can see there's a convergence here, because I had first started talking about this scripture, John 20:17, in the year 2017, because this is where Jesus said to, I guess it was Mary, I'm not sure if it was Mary Magdalene, but it says over here that Jesus had said to her, "Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended unto my Father, but I go to my brethren and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God." Okay, and then this next scripture was pointed out in a recent video by Rody61169, which was an excellent video that I also didn't get a chance to talk about, and so I'll try to bring that up again, that video where he made a really amazing discovery about Luke 20:18, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But over here he pointed out this scripture as well, and this is where it says Mary Magdalene came and told the disciples that she had seen the Lord and had spoken these things unto her, and that he had spoken these things unto her. And so he was pointing out how this is when she had seen the Lord, but as you can see, it starts out with 2017, and then it goes through to 2019, and this is when the doors were shut and Jesus suddenly appeared unto the disciples in the midst, which is very important because, again, this is a representation of DNA. Jesus is always in the middle because he binds the two together, the two DNA strands that make up the DNA. Okay, so getting back to Acts 27 through 2019, where you see this convergence of these 3 years again, I just want to try to explain why I believe there's a convergence of all 3 years. But again, this was the last midnight, and so I just want to show you again. If you go to the very last day of the year, which was December 31st, 2018, and when the Gregorian calendar began, which was in the year 1 AD, because there was no year 0, so that would be January 1st, 1 AD, to December 31st, 2018, you see that that was the 2017th year. It was the last day of that year, and then once it became the new year, on January 1st of 2019, I'll go ahead and execute that, and you'll see that that's when it became exactly 2018 years. And so now this is the 6th of January, so we're 6 days or 5 days into the year, or the 2019th year, but we're still in the 2018th year, just as we were in the 2017th year last year. So this is truly the 2018th year currently. Okay, getting back to Acts 27, which looks like the year 2017, I just want to show you a visual of the word midnight so you can see that that's the very last time in the Bible that you see the word midnight. It occurs 14 times in 13 verses. And the very last time you see the word midnight in the Bible is in Acts 27, which looks like 2017, and Acts 27:27, which represents the year 2017. And I've shown tables that, or a table that confirms that before in the past. And so getting back to Acts 27, you see that this is when you see the last midnight here in 2017, and then in 2018 it says, and there were many lights in the upper chamber where they were gathered together. And I was talking about how this could represent Hanukkah. It could also represent the new year, but it also represents the year 2018, which is what this year truly is, but on the calendar it's 2019. And then the very next verse talks about the window that this person was sitting next to, and this name over here means fortunate. I explained that in my last video. And he fell into a deep sleep and then was taken up dead. And this word taken up is a word that means the exact same thing as the word rapture. Okay, getting back to John 20, verses 17 through 19, again, you see this convergence of the 3 years. And this is important because this is where Jesus said, touch me not. And this goes all the way back to the garden, to the tree of life, and not having access to the tree of life. So he said it's because he hadn't ascended yet. This is when he ascended on first fruits. So it wasn't until then that he could be touched. And so I had brought that up in 2017. And then Mary Magdalene sees the Lord in 2018. And then in 2019, he appears in the midst. Okay, and so you have this convergence throughout the entire Bible. Like, it's not just those 2 scriptures. It's all over the Bible, and I can show you some more examples. But just in the same video here, there's another example, because then this video goes on to talk about Psalm 118, which I'm sure everyone knows by now represents the year 2018. And then it's in verse 19 through 21 where it says, open to me the gates of righteousness, I shall enter through them, I shall give thanks to the Lord. So again, you see this convergence with Psalms 117 through 119. I'll talk about Psalm 119 again, but it's in verse 19 where you see the gates being opened. Okay, so this all goes back to my last video that I did where I mentioned this ring, because it's very important where this ring was found, and that's just incidentally. I have a lot more to talk about, but it was found over here at the Pilgrim's Path, which is the gates to the temple from the Pool of Siloam. So this is where they entered in through the temple, and this Pilgrim's Path is also based on Psalms 119 in the Septuagint through 133, but in the King James it's from Psalm 120 through 134, and this is known as a Song of Ascents, and that's what it's based on. It's based on the exact location where this ring was found. And it's a representation of ascending to the temple of God and entering in through the gates, as was explained in this video over here. And I'll put the link. I recommend watching this entire video because he talks about how this lamp was found in this tunnel as well, in the staircase where they found the ring. And he's talking about how this was a place of refuge during the siege of Jerusalem, and he also found this lamp hidden in there that had been misplaced for 2,000 years as well. And yeah, I just enlarged my screen so you could see that better because it was cutting off the top part of that lamp. So I just want you to see how he found this lamp where they were hiding out in this tunnel during the siege of Jerusalem. And he was talking about it was like connecting with what took place 2,000 years ago when he found that. Okay, he also talks about this tunnel or this road, which is known as the Pilgrim's Path, which is a stairway leading up to the temple, to the city of David, that it dates no longer than the years 31 through 31 CE, which is the time of Jesus. And he specifically mentions that in this video, that it was during the time of Pontius Pilate when Jesus was sentenced to death by crucifixion. And so that's how long this ring has been missing. Okay, so I have a lot more to talk about. I wanted to talk about how this ring connects with the year 2019 as well, and I'll just mention this real quick. You can see in this article that it says that this was a blue semi-precious stone, and I already knew what kind of stone it was, but I just want to show you that it's the only stone it could possibly be, because if you look at semi-precious blue stones, you see that this is the only one that's that color blue. Okay, so what I noticed is that the topaz is mentioned in Job 28, which is where the word Cheops had come up, which is another word for the Great Pyramid of Giza. I had talked about that before. And it actually comes up in verse 19. That's where you see the topaz mentioned. And it's the 9th stone in Revelation 21 where it talks about New Jerusalem.